Versatile Mage. Chapter 324. The Retreat of the Lizards. Mo Fan was utterly furious when he learned that the razor-tailed drake was flying away. He had to find a way to release the savagery in his bones. He was running at a crazy speed. He could even use his hands as claws while sprinting vertically up the tallest building, just like how he ran on the ground. At that moment, he was no different than a demon beast. As he reached the top of the building, Mo Fan finally caught a glance of the razor-tailed drake, which had already risen around 70 meters higher into the sky. He stooped slightly on the building, the exact same stance he used before. The burst of power launched him over 100 meters into the sky. His jumping ability was crazier than that of the Swift Star Wolf, as the Blood Serera had strengthened the lineage of the Swift Star Wolf a few times over. Wrapped around by the wolf shadow, Mo Fan sprang into the sky. He was propelling himself straight at the razor-tailed drake. The razor-tailed drake flapped its wings wildly, as if it had just seen a ghost. Normally, the razor-tailed drake would never allow anyone to trespass into its territory, but as soon as it realized how bizarre the intruder's strength was, it had decided not to fight against him again before having a clear understanding of what he was. To its surprise, the man was reluctant to give up. He was still chasing after it even though it had taken the initiative to withdraw from its territory. Was there something wrong with his mind? The razor-tailed drake was infuriated. It rapidly sucked the air around it into its stomach. The razor-tailed drake's body bloated. It resembled a giant balloon with wings from afar. Roar! The razor-tailed drake unleashed all the air in its stomach at the rapidly approaching Mo Fan. A shocking tornado spun through the sky. The tip of the tornado extended down right at the demonized Mo Fan, who was still rising like a rocket. Mo Fan was unable to control his body in the air. As a result, the razor-tailed drake's breath struck him heavily before trapping him inside the tornado. As the tornado fell from the sky, Mo Fan, who had lost his balance, was flung wildly toward an abandoned residential area overgrown with weeds. The entire area was smashed into pieces from the collision. A huge cloud of dust lingered in the air. Mo Fan, who was right in the center of the tornado, slammed hard into the pit the collision created. His body was covered in wounds, like he had been flogged with a whip. The wounds were not too deep, mere scratches on his skin. The tornado was still spinning above the residential area. Mo Fan rose to his feet as if he were perfectly unharmed. His extraordinary eyes stared at the razor-tailed drake flying up in the sky through the thick layer of dust. At the same time, the razor-tailed drake stared down at him in the sky. When it figured that he had only suffered a few scratches, it exhaled a furious breath from its nose. Where did this monster come from? He was tiny as a human, but the blood and bones in his body could match that of a commander-level demon beast. Why would I bother fighting against such a monster? The razor-tailed drake raised its head and uttered a commanding roar to the giant lizards on the streets. It flapped its wings and flew in the direction of Dongting Lake without turning its head back. The razor-tailed drake had already planned to move its territory. It was time for it to bring its minions back to their real nest. Following that command, the giant lizards withdrew like a tide. The previously rumbling streets quickly fell silent. Their tails and scaled backs disappeared into the distance as they followed their commander, the razor-tailed drake, into the horizon. The carpet of flesh swept through a certain direction in Jinlan City. The giant lizards had no instinct to protect the property. They trampled up the streets of the abandoned city and bulldozed the ruined buildings in their path. It was a spectacular view. It was true that the demonized Mo Fan killed the giant lizards like cutting vegetables, but there were just too many of them. It would take him more than a day and a night to totally wipe them out. Besides, it was only a small pack led by a commander-level razor-tailed drake. It was impossible to imagine how terrifying the scale of the entire giant lizard horde at Dongting Lake would be. Another zone of the city was also destroyed beyond recognition due to the highly destructive advanced magic being cast upon it. It was the location where the battle between Zan Kong and the Devil Lu Nian was taking place. Neither had managed to gain the upper hand in the battle so far. Lu Nian might be stronger than Zan Kong, but the latter was incredibly agile due to his wind element. He knew how to dodge Lu Nian's powerful attacks. The two had fought in the air and on the ground. More than 100 demon beasts had died from the fallout of the spells they had cast. They were both keeping an eye on the situation taking place at the center of the city, but they could not afford to lose their focus in a battle against a worthy opponent too. You're still weak as heck. If this is all you've got, you should just die and accompany her in hell. She must be missing you a lot down there, Lu Nian said with a cold grin. At the same time, he twisted the military braca on his wrist. The braca began to emit a brown magical glow, which rapidly wrapped around Lu Nian's body. This thing is called the Petrifying Braca. It can boost the power of my petrifying eyes significantly. Your defensive equipment is no longer usable, and the protection of your wind wings alone won't be enough to nullify my attack. Zan Kong, do you like the petrifying funeral that I have specifically arranged for you? Lu Nian burst into laughter. A petrifying equipment. This kind of equipment was extremely rare to find. It was specifically made for certain unique magic. Lu Nian had spent a great fortune just to acquire it. Initially, he thought he would only use it in war, but he never thought the first tester would be his old comrade Zan Kong. What perfect timing. Zan Kong frowned as he swiftly backed off. The equipment on Lu Nian's arm was unleashing a shocking energy. It was surely nothing ordinary. It would most likely be able to petrify a fourth of the city. He should keep a certain distance away. You're running away. Do you really think you have enough time for that? Lu Nian was accumulating his energy. It might seem like he would be channeling the cast for quite some time, but there was no way Zan Kong could make his way out of range in time. He did enjoy watching Zan Kong fleeing for his life, like a hunt between an eagle and a hare. The hare would assume it could make it to its burrow in time. However, the eagle had already calculated its speed and the distance from the burrow. The moment it dove from the sky, it had already decided the outcome of the hunt. Giving up already. The petrifying energy was unleashed from Lu Nian's body. None of the plants nearby were able to escape their fate, and were covered in a layer of gray-white substances. A soft touch alone would shatter them into pieces. Lu Nian suddenly realized that Zan Kong had stopped flying away. He was just standing there with a complicated expression, as if he had just seen something unbelievable. You better look behind you, Zan Kong said. Do you think this is a kid's game? Lu Nian snapped. Well, I did try to tell you. The astonishment on Zan Kong's face slowly disappeared. His eyes were fixed on Lu Nian, and the black shadow that was approaching him at an insane speed. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.